Okay, thank you all so much for taking the time to be with us today for a digital-focused session of office hours. For those of you who may not be familiar with us, Zuri Group is a full-service consulting agency that works exclusively with nonprofits, from peer-to-peer fundraising, website design and development, digital advertising and Google Grants account maintenance, to fundraising strategy, systems assessments and selections, full-scale CRM implementations, and everything in between. We are really passionate about helping nonprofits use technology to build better relationships with their constituents and maximize their impact. My name is Lo, and I am a digital marketing consultant here at Zuri Group. If this is your first visit to our office hours, let me share what you can expect over the next hour that we're together. Every month, our senior strategists and developers set aside some time to talk with you about nonprofit technology and provide an opportunity for you to ask some questions. We really want for office hours to be an opportunity for you to get some free consulting and to provide a space where we can all have an interactive conversation about what's going on in the nonprofit tech space. So we'd love for you to take advantage of this opportunity and type your questions directly into the chat. I know sometimes it can be intimidating to speak up, so don't feel like you have to send your message to be viewed by the whole group. You can absolutely send a message to the organizer. That way, only I will see it and I can relay that anonymously for you. We are joined by Molly Kelly and Margaret Hiss today. Molly Kelly believes in the power of technology for change. For over 20 years, Molly has been helping nonprofit organizations develop digital solutions to communicate their mission, reach monetary goals, and create real-world impact. Her consulting and guidance have played a part in the transformation and growth of technology use in the nonprofit community. Throughout this transformation, she has partnered with a diverse array of organizations like Amnesty International, American Heart Association, and the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, and now leads our product team in the development of peer-to-peer solutions on the Engaging Networks platform. Margaret Hiss is a digital strategy professional with a wealth of knowledge in nonprofit management and organizational development. She has worked extensively with organizations focusing on streamlining operations, implementing efficient business practices, and launching online fundraising campaigns. Margaret excels at project planning, requirements documentation, strategic campaign development, and client service. And during her time with Zuri Group, she's helped clients find new fundraising and constituent management software solutions. She's organized and implemented web design and development projects and has helped them increase revenue for year-end giving by 200%. Molly and Margaret are going to be helping us explore some of the biggest digital trends in nonprofit tech, and they're also going to be taking your live questions. As I mentioned, I will be keeping an eye out on the chat today for questions, so please don't be shy. Molly and Margaret, go ahead and get us started. I'll go ahead and hand over presenter rights.
Thanks, L'Oreal. I will introduce what the topics we're going to talk about today. We live in this ever-changing world of technology, and for a while, the lag between for-profit and nonprofit innovations was pretty big. Today, nonprofits are adapting newer technologies faster than we used to, and it's really changing the way everyone interacts with our organization. There's a lot of exciting things happening in the digital world. We've selected a couple of hot topics to discuss with you all. We'll likely only scratch the surface of these. However, I encourage you to continue to be part of the conversation as we progress. The three main areas that we'll touch on today are voice and digital assistance, the digital wallet, and we'll briefly breeze over SMS fundraising and some cool features that are in the works. We are also going to pull up a live poll here. We'd love to know if any of your organizations or any of you who are attending are using any of these currently, and we'll ask some additional polls throughout our engagement here today. With that being said, Molly Kelly will kick off today's discussion with voice, search, and strategy.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. Thanks for all coming today. I want to talk about voice and digital assistance. This is something that I have been truly excited about. So I'm thrilled to get the opportunity to talk about it today. I mean, the promise of voice recognition has been around for a long time, and it was used successfully for some applications. Certainly to help people with disabilities, and I think transcription services have been using it for years, but they always needed someone to then, those transcriptionists to then do edits and things like that. But now voice is kind of at an inflection point, and it is definitely staged to be a huge disruptor in how we live and work and communicate and fundraise. And what it took to put voice and digital assistants into that space was the convergence of improvements in voice recognition, certainly, with the use of artificial intelligence, specifically conversational AI, simple mobile devices that we're all using now, and inexpensive data. Now, on top of that growth is the growth in text, and that's made email for some people obsolete. Like, you don't need to have an email address to sign up to get a Facebook account. You only need a mobile number. And so we live in a world where speed and efficiency and convenience are placed at a premium, and this digital assistant technology is in a position now to change the way your organization operates. So, the iPhone launched and it started kind of that device revolution, but that was a long time ago. And then Apple introduced Siri to the iPhone in 2011, and voice technology has grown from there, and it's become a staple feature not only in smartphones, but across an array of different internet-enabled devices. So anyway, just think about it. I mean, have you spoken to any of these devices? I don't like to just read the stats, but I think they're great to look at. I know many of you, I'm sure you speak to your smartphone, maybe to your car. A lot of people are wearing wearables, but it's really growing. And you can see here that the adoption is also driven by younger customers with households with children of income over 100K. Now, we've gone beyond the smartphone. Smart speakers, this usage is growing rapidly. 1 out of 10 Wi-Fi connected homes in the US has a smart speaker. And the big three, plus Facebook, so that's Amazon, Google, and Apple, are all competing in this space with their own devices. Facebook recently launched the portal, and so now they're into the space as well. And this effect is global. Voice technology is really poised to permeate all of our lives. And these devices are out there. They're in your home, they're in your hand. And this conversational AI just gets better every day, and it weaves itself into the world around us. And it surrounds us with this adaptive intelligence that knows who we are, it knows what we want to do, and it's just working to fulfill our needs. So our nonprofit supporters, guess what? They live in that same world, and they will soon come to expect this from our organizations. Now, when it comes to search, everything is changing. People are now engaging with search engines on a deeper level and in a more meaningful way. They say that the new Q&A used to be question and answer, but now the new Q&A is question and action. So you don't just want the answer, you want it to take you or perform an action for you based on that question. And this trend is growing. In fact, Google's English speech recognition has a 95% accuracy rate, and Google's search, voice search on mobile devices is now available in over 100 languages. Other surveys have reported that 71% of voice-assisted owners, they prefer to use their voice. So it's not like it's just a niche group that are loving it. Those people who are using it are preferring it in high numbers. And in fact, these surveys are also saying that half of all searches will be by voice in the next year. Now the tide is coming, and unless you want to drown, you need to work on your ship. Unfortunately, you can't just leave your old strategies in place and have the voice search be the primary way people are searching and think that people are still going to be able to find you. You need to kind of sit down and start coming up with a voice search strategy. You need to adapt your old strategies to think about that new Q&A, question and action. And we're going to go over a couple of tactics to help you do that. Position 0. So the optimization strategy for voice is actually very competitive because most voice assistants like Siri or Google or Alexa, they generally only return the top featured snippet. Somebody's not going to see a whole page of results. And in fact, they will often sometimes just read out loud the top results for you. So you really need to aim to land in that position 0. And I know you're saying, like, we've always kind of done that, but there's different tactics to get there for voice. One way is you need to make sure that your content and your web pages answer your common questions and queries that around kind of your niche. items and do it in the most succinct way. What does that actually really mean? Well, it means that your voice searches are not traditional in the way anymore. They use natural language. So rather than like traditionally, I might type in best coffee shop in DC. When I'm using voice, it might be what are the best rated coffee shops near me? So voice queries tend to be longer form, and this is kind of known as long tail keywords. Long tail keywords are like 3 or 4 keyword phrases, which are very, very specific to whatever you have to offer. So whenever a customer uses a highly specific search phrase, they tend to be looking for exactly that, exactly what they're going to take action on. Everybody, even traditional search recommends using long tail keywords, because the good news is that using those longer tail specific phrases, those multi-word phrases, actually make it easier for you to rank well when those terms are searched, and therefore also a little bit cheaper, because we're aiming for that position 0. So it works on both ends. And you can see that some stats are saying that 60%-ish of search demand is generated by only like 0.16 of the most popular keywords, which means that like the other 39% belongs to 99% of the searches that are happening out there. They're using long-term keywords. And that's where you should go as well. Now, how do you find them? There's a bunch of different sites out there that can help you collect this wide range of search terms. I know you'll sit with your team and you'll come up with them, but you're insiders. So it's really good to come up with that list of terms, things that you're thinking about, but also go out and do some research. There's keyword research tools like Moz, a few other sites, this one site called Answer to the Public, to find those niche terms. You can also look on your Google searches into that people who ask section. That's going to help you find the longer phrases that might help people find your services, your organization, your events. We talked about the natural language. It's true, when I'm doing a voice search, people also often include who, what, where, when, why, how. This means you should also include those terms and phrases in your long tail keywords, meaning in your headers, in your meta tags. This will improve your chances of becoming the featured snippet, which is where you really want to be, especially for voice. And I want you to consider using localized searches. So there's a trend that in voice, more and more people on voice, Google reports that like near me searches for services have increased dramatically. In fact, they say 130% year after year. So even if you're a national organization, there's got to be ways that you can target localized language, because people think near me. So it's a great way to focus and use the local version. For instance, maybe you're looking for volunteers, or you have direct services, or you're looking for advocates. Even if you're looking for advocates nationally, you're looking at them near me. You also want to maybe include various locations. And I do want to mention that if you've got a peer-to-peer event that you're running, spend extra time here. Make sure you're adding those localized search items and things for those things that are happening locally. And then, of course, all of our traditional search rules, they still matter. You want to implement structured data. What that means is it's something called schema markup. You can Google that. It helps search engines better understand your information on your site. It also improves your chance of appearing in that featured snippet. Once again, structured data is really important for those fundraising events, because people will oftentimes ask for, what times does this event start? They'll ask those things using voice, and this is going to help them get those answers. You want to claim your Google listing. I know that sounds silly, but you have an official one for your org. You want to make sure someone's mining it, maintaining it, paying attention. You also want to be checking the speed. Google's got some great tools where you can be checking that all the time, how well your site and your online digital is performing. And remember, that changes all the time. You're always putting up new content and new images, so it's important to have someone paying attention to those things. Of course, mobile friendly, we all know that. That's been banged into our heads now for long enough that we get it. We talked about increasing your relevance and also, believe it or not, your online reputation. You wouldn't think that reviews on a nonprofit site, a Google review on that Google listing, means anything. to people when they're looking, but it actually does, and it means something to the algorithm. So that's why it's extra important on that end. And believe it or not, the FAQ is back. We used to do this. We used to always have remember years ago, we used to have the sitemap, but we always generated a sitemap and had a page where people would go and view the sitemap. In a similar way, the FAQ is now back because it is a great way for Google to kind of easily scan and create that question to action information that it needs to return things for voice. And FAQs are often written in natural language if we think about it, and I'm going to give you an example. So let's just pop out. All right. So for instance, we set up this, it's in development, but we set up this little FAQ page with some important information for Lustgarten pancreatic cancer research walk specifically. And then what we've done is we set up this little dialogue flow app. This is a Google tool, and I'll talk a little bit about it more later, but I'm just going to show you, do a little test here if I was asking something. How do I volunteer? So there you go. You can see that I just asked my question on voice. We can pretend that was on my phone, and it's giving me the answer, the question and the answer action right from the FAQ. And this was a really simple tool. We were able to scan that FAQ and kind of teach, in a sense, Dialogflow, teach Amazon, teach Google how to respond and get the information it was looking for.
That's so cool, Molly.
I'm glad you think so, Lo. All right, so back to that question and answer. So how do you get started? Well, get a team together, sit down, create a digital assistance strategy that's aligned with your organization goals. Maybe you run events, maybe you don't. Maybe you're an advocacy organization and you need to think about this. Maybe you're an organization like American Kidney Fund who provides medical information for people and support. And I have that as an example because we're going to do another little test. We've been talking about voice search, and that's really important for people to find you, but it goes even beyond that now because we have these digital assistants. And the key ones, the top ones, you can see the statistics here. We have Apple Siri, we have Google Assistant are kind of in a tie. Amazon Alexa is rising and right behind there, and we have the Microsoft Cortana. Those assistants, they kind of need to learn. They need to learn you, and you need to teach them. You need to tell them what are the actions and the answers to people's questions about your organization or about your domain. So I'm going to do a little test here on my phone. I need help with nephrotic syndrome.
According to American Kidney Fund, if your kidneys stop working, you will need dialysis or a kidney transplant to live.
Okay. So I'm going to stop that, but I just think that that is an amazing example of hard work, I think, that American Kidney Fund has done with Google in making sure that not only were they position 0, that they taught Google how to get the answer needed to that type of question, to needing help with nephrotic syndrome. And so people are going to imagine I'm at home with my Alexa doing something similar. People are going to start interacting this way, and you want to make sure that you're the organization that's providing them the help they need. So moving on, I mentioned that it's just it's not all there. You have to work on this. We need a strategy. And so let's talk. I'm going to talk a little bit about Alexa and about Google Assistant. So Alexa calls them skills, and you basically need to build skills, create skills, teach Alexa, give Alexa skills in order to interact with your key information. Now, great thing about Alexa is that if maybe you have your website on an open source CMS like WordPress or Drupal, there's great plugins out there already that make it really easy to roll out generic Alexa skills. They'll deliver new posts, they'll deliver text snippets. So maybe if you can set those up pretty easily, which is really amazing. So maybe if you publish a blog or daily content, it would be great to use those kinds of things. The other great thing about Alexa, Amazon, is that they've made accepting donations really easy. And you probably already know this, but if you haven't done it yet, all you need to do is register your charity at pay.amazon.com, and somebody can just say donate to your org. And as long as they have some kind of, well, in this case with Alexa, an Amazon wallet set up, a payment can go through that easily, and they can donate to you. So it doesn't require any custom skills or anything like that, although you can set up custom skills for more dynamic things that you're doing. But for donate, you just need to sign up. Google Assistant, they call it Google Actions. It's not very difficult. I just showed you that little dialogue flow app that we set up. It ran through that FAQ and created that kind of knowledge base very quickly. And it scanned through and it created those triggers to the phrases. They also, the Google Assistant system, the dialogue flow will also export to Alexa. So it's a way that you can build it in one and then be able to kind of have the skills created for Alexa as well. And for accepting donations via Google Assistant, it responds to my assistant does respond to commands like donate to a charity, make a donation. And once again, for this to actually really work for me, I just need to have my Google Assistant assist payments set up on my phone, and the funds get routed through Network for Good to your organization. And I think basically you need to be a registered org with Network for Good, just FYI. I'm going to skip right past Siri. Siri's a little more complicated. So I just want to show you a couple examples of how some organizations are kind of dipping your toes. I already showed you how amazing it was for American Kidney, using my Google Assistant. This is a client of ours, Committee to Protect Journalists. They're starting to advertise in the bottom of their newsletters that they send that people should enable the CPJ flash briefing skill in their Amazon Alexa device. And so therefore, all of their latest news on press freedom get published and syndicated through that flash briefing on Alexa. And so in the morning, you can just say, once you've enabled CPJ in there, you can just say, give me my news for today, give me my flash briefings, and CPJ will be included in that. Additionally, here are some other ways that some other organizations have been using the digital assistant and hooking things up. So, before I pass to Margaret, I just want to say, we remember when, mobile responsive was new, and then it took some time, but soon it became a standard that the community, our users and our supporters out there, it's a standard that they use to set a perception of our organization. If you're not mobile friendly, you're outdated, perhaps you're a poor steward of their donations, you're just ignorant to people's needs. Voice search, being ready for digital assistance is soon going to become a standard in that same way, because people have high expectations. And so this is why we think it's important for organizations to make voice and that voice strategy a real priority.
Thank you so much for that, Molly. I really appreciated all of the examples of the strategic and creative ways there are for people to use voice to engage with donors, volunteers, and constituents. So thank you so much for that. Okay, I think we are ready to go. So let's go ahead and move into our next segment, the digital wallet. Margaret?
Thanks, Lau. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Molly. That was super interesting. I know I am a Amazon, I don't want to say her name because she'll hear me, user, and I use it daily all the time. It's just kind of intertwined with my life. So I'm excited to hear about all of that cool stuff that we can implement. Moving forward, we're going to touch a little bit on digital wallet and digital wallet payments through gift forms or event forms, and any way that we can take a transaction, we can add this newer feature. We'll start with the baseline. What is a digital wallet? It's a system that securely stores users' payments information and passwords for numerous payment methods and websites. I think we have a poll later, or maybe we could just ask it out in general. I'm curious if people use this in their everyday life, whether it's a consumer purchase or awesome, there we go, or on your gift forms. And as Lo will tally up those, I'm just curious to see kind of how popular it is right now in the nonprofit space. Keep in mind that these digital wallet options are payment methods and they're not payment gateways. So there might be some of you here who are wondering if you need to change your payment processor or anything like that in order to be able to present these payment methods to your constituents? And the answer is typically no. We'll get into some different systems that offer these features out of box in a little bit. Oh, awesome. So 83% no. So this should be pretty interesting. I'm going to go over some areas where we can add this, how we can use it, and ultimately show you how easy it is to incorporate. Before we get into that, I did want to touch on just some reasons why. This allows you to leave your wallet behind. I know that's one of my favorite features, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case in the nonprofit space or through our gift form. It also speeds up the form fill process. So my digital wallet stores not only my credit card information, but my personal information associated with that, like my address, my email address, my phone number, first name, last name, those kind of things. So it makes that autofill process on my mobile device or a device that supports the digital wallet payment that I'm choosing to use very quick and easy. It's also a very secure way of making a payment. With hacking into phones and things like that, folks used to be a little bit nervous about adding these personal details to your mobile device, whereas actually shown to be a more secure way of making a payment than your in-person or your plastic credit card. We'll touch on that more in a moment as well. Some popular providers, these logos might look familiar to some of you. Amazon Payments, Molly even touched on some of these. Apple Pay, Google Pay, MasterPass by MasterCard, and Visa Checkout. Some statistics that really got me interested in learning more on how we can use these features in the nonprofit space come from the for-profit space. I think Molly mentioned earlier, we don't like to usually read statistics, but I do think they're pretty striking. So stores supporting Apple Pay on the web have seen an increase in checkout conversion rate of up to 2 times on mobile. So what this means is that site visitors coming to their website through a mobile device are 2 times more likely to complete their purchase than they used to be through Apple Pay. And I thought that was pretty striking 2 times, meaning that their abandon rates in their shopping cart are probably decreasing, and folks are more and more using their mobile device to make those payments and successfully be able to through the use of these digital wallets. Customers are able to check out up to 60% faster with Apple Pay. And what I like about this stat is you can replace customers with donors and check out with make a gift. And 60% faster is quite striking in my opinion. So if we can add these digital wallet features to our gift forms or our event registrations, event ticket purchase forms, those types of things, and our constituents are checking out or completing their purchase 60% faster, I think it's definitely something we want to explore. I also like to look at stats when I'm curious about a new innovative feature. When I work with organizations, I'd like to lean on the fact that because it's new, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's something that we need to implement. However, I think these statistics definitely show that this is something we should be exploring. I mentioned security before, and I'm sure some of you are saying, how is this more secure? When digital wallets first were introduced, most people assumed that it would be a less secure way of storing your credit card information because of credit card fraud and being able to hack into mobile devices, where it's actually known to be more of a secure method of payment. This is because of our virtual account numbers and then these unique security codes or tokens that are in place for each transaction you make through this digital wallet. In addition to just the transaction, method or the details that go along with a transaction through your digital wallet, our phones are equipped with fingerprint verification, and in most cases, facial recognition. So I know my iPhone uses my face in order to get in, making it relatively impossible to hack into someone's phone should you even find it. With these security measures in place, up to 40% of mobile phone users can still consider payments on your mobile phone to be less secure than credit cards. So I think that's a pretty big group of people who are still a little bit weary. What this means, or the takeaway that I received through that stat, is that when we choose to present this payment method option to our constituents, we just want to be careful in how we communicate. And Apple has, I'm going to use Apple Pay as an example right now, but Apple Pay has some measures to put in place in order to make sure that it is very clear how a user can use this feature and how secure it is. How and when can we use this? And I'll show some examples in a moment too, so you can see some real life situations. I mentioned the speedy checkout. And I think of day of event payments, whether this be a minimum fundraising goal in order to participate, where someone is coming up to you and writing a check on the day of an event to meet that requirement. I can imagine the event days that not only are people running around trying to check people in, but managing additional gifts that day might be a little bit difficult. Also, if you consider like a run or walk, not everyone has their wallet on them, but we typically carry our mobile device. I included monthly gifts and dynamic asks on this list as well, because I just wanted to make sure it was clear that the functionality your current gift form offers will work through these digital wallet payment methods as well. So there aren't any limitations. So if you can accept monthly gifts, or if you have dynamic asks available, those will be accepted too. Crowdfunding or single day of giving. I like this example as well. It reminds me of being at a ballpark when the old text to give would come up on the screen. And now we can provide a short URL to a form that has these digital wallet payments. So event attendees can quickly bring out their phone, don't even need their wallet, and be able to quickly, 60% faster, submit their gift through that online form. And last but not least, everyday gift forms. So we don't need a special occasion to speed up the donation process. I did want to shed light on some platforms. These obviously are not all of the systems we use for online fundraising, just some examples. And I think it's an array of organizations or softwares that are presenting this option in different manners. So for Luminate online users, this is available through the secure checkout form if you use Blackbaud Merchant Services. For DonorBox, this is an out-of-box functionality. And for Classy, this is coming soon, and same with Engaging Networks.
So, Margaret, we do have a question for you. Someone says, we are using Engaging Networks and we're interested in using the digital wallet. Do you happen to know what they mean when they say coming soon?
That's a great question. I don't have specific details. However, I do know that Engaging Networks is in the process of adding Apple Pay and Google Wallet through the Stripe payment gateway. So I guess I mentioned earlier that it isn't reliant on your payment gateway. However, the softwares that are packaging these pieces up, like Engaging Networks, to present to you as a feature on your gift forms through that system, they will likely have some payment gateway requirements. So for Stripe users, it's definitely coming soon. And it will likely, I think, be built as a new page type. And the reasoning behind that, which we'll touch on in a moment too, is so your end user can view the digital wallet payment types that are available based on the device they're viewing that page from. So if I'm on my iPhone, I'll see Apple Pay. If I'm on my Android, I won't see Apple Pay because that device doesn't support that payment method.
Right, and then also just specifically, right, so you can see she has it here in the bullet. For Blackbaud, if you're on Luminate, you know, you can do this, but you have to use their merchant services. So that's how they're able to then offer you it through Blackbaud, is through their merchant services, and Engaging Networks, it'll be through their Stripe gateway.
If you do not use one of these systems, or you'd like to implement it yourself, maybe on something like Classy, there are some ways to go about doing that, whether it's using developers you have in-house or some support from organizations like Zuri Group. I'm going to touch on some minimum requirements. It might sound a little bit technical, however, it is a fairly simple feature to add as long as you adhere to the minimum requirements.
And that is perfect, because we just had another question come in asking, how do we add digital wallet functionality to a standard online donor form?
Perfect. We're going to jump right to that, or if you can. You certainly can. And for systems who currently do not include, I'm going to use Apple Pay, side note, as the example. However, these tactics can be applied to other digital wallet payment types. I just think it's easier to keep consistent. I'm also an Apple user, so it's easier for me to speak to because I have a lot of experience in my day-to-day life making these transactions, completing them. So Apple does have some minimum requirements, which I'll touch on, and they've also partnered with an organization to make the approval process a little bit easier. What you need, I've listed it here, a payment provider, which I'm assuming most of you have, an Apple Developer Program membership. And what this really means is access to the developer packages that Apple has created in order to be able to add these features to your gift forms. approval to accept donations with Apple Pay, so verified nonprofit status. And then the last one, Apple Pay implemented on your app or website. I mentioned Apple has some minimum requirements, and here's a visual that we'll talk through. I'm also going to show some live examples. On a one-time gift form, you must display the Apple payment mark. So that's that image you're seeing to the left, directly next to or around other payment options. What that means is if you're presenting a Visa or a check payment option, offline, whatever it may be, if you are accepting Apple payments as well, it needs to be grouped together with all of those options and presented accordingly. In addition, the Apple payment mark should be a link that directs the donor to a page that supports an Apple payment or a digital wallet payment. What this means is you can't just have the logo floating around your website. It has to be a direct link to the gift form that allows you to make a gift through your digital wallet. These are the minimum requirements. In my research and from experience in adding these to different forms, this recommended approach is something that we highly recommend. And what this recommended approach is, in addition to the requirements I previously mentioned, Apple or your digital wallet services, they recommend having additional layer of code on your donate button that identifies what type of device you're on and then shows the digital wallet payment accordingly. I mentioned this before, but if you're on an Apple supported device that has access to your Apple Pay or your digital wallet and through your Apple Pay, then the gift form could present that option. If you're on a Google supported device, it should show that Google Pay and hide the Apple Pay. So I did want to show a couple examples just to paint a picture of what that means. Again, it sounds pretty technical, but it's not. And the toolkits that these providers deliver make it really easy in order to scrape the surface and determine what device you're viewing this on. Here is an example of Charity Water. Their gift form, pretty simple. This is on Google Chrome. I have my monthly giving option and my give once, and if I click donate, I am pushed through to their payment method option. Here I have the option to give by card or PayPal. However, when I'm using Safari, which is connected to my Apple Pay account, Mac, and I follow the same steps and click donate, I have this big donate with Apple Pay option. You can take it one step further. This form specifically doesn't offer anything other than Apple Pay. I would assume that in Google, let's take a look at this one. I would see something other than just Apple Pay, potentially. So Amazon Pay and Amazon Pay. So for this example, this is St. Jude. The Apple Pay logo is not visible on Google, but it is visible on Safari. While I have you here, I will show you another example of the secure checkout form with these options available as well. A simple gift form, if you click Give Securely, I have MasterPass, Visa Checkout, and Apple Pay available. Let's take a look out of curiosity what that looks like in Chrome. Oh, so the Apple Pay is hidden. I'm assuming that my Google Pay is not connected here because I actually don't have a Google Pay account, but I would assume that if it was connected to my Gmail or anything that's available through Chrome, it would provide me that payment option. Before we wrap up with our Google payment and digital wallet payments and adding them to gift forms, I had this kind of funny idea as I was preparing for this, and I thought I send transactions to my friends and family through my text messaging and my digital wallet on my phone all the time. And how cool would it be if we could actually send payments to a nonprofit through our digital wallet through text message? And so these are just screenshots. We actually haven't implemented this for anyone before. But from just thinking this through in my head, my assumption would be here that your requirements would be to have an Apple Pay account, and then also to have a working phone number that is associated to that Apple Pay account, where someone could maybe throw up at the screen at the ball game, as I mentioned before, and say, you know, the old text to give. So text this number and select your amount, and then it sends it through a text message. Just wanted to keep that in there because I thought it was an interesting idea.
Yeah, it's really exciting to start thinking about all of the ways that we'll be able to start using this technology to make the donation process even easier. Thank you so much. Before we move on to our last segment, are there any other questions about the digital wallet? Otherwise, we will move right into SMS fundraising and outreach. Okay, I think we're good to go.
Great. We'll briefly touch on some of these pieces and we can expand on them a little bit, but I wanted to dust off the old text to give topic and really dive in and kind of resurface it to be applicable to other areas and the way that we communicate with our constituents. So I have here text to give, text to sign, which would be more of an advocacy feature, text to learn more, and text to engage. Text to give is actually the most well-known mobile donation method, which I thought is pretty interesting. To further paint the picture here, if you recall, American Red Cross used this to support people affected by the horrific earthquake in Haiti in 2010. They raised over $40 million through text to give. And I think the impact, they still use that today as part of their gift processing. But I think the impact of something like this means that it should kind of be a requirement in our communication strategy. How can we use this? Advocacy is a big one that isn't, in my opinion, your most standard way of using it. Remind people to vote or register, take action, send event details, fundraising for advocacy, and then two-way communication is pretty big. So a lot of these systems, and I'll show you some example systems in a moment, a lot of these systems allow you to interact with your constituent database through text messaging. It's not necessarily a one-way communication outlet. You can send out, blast out a text message, and then as people start replying, you can receive them in your email inbox through a special email and reply back to them, and all they'll see are a standard text message thread. So it's not, it really feels a little bit more connected and intimate in terms of communicating with your constituent base. The last bullet point here I think is nice. Learn more about your donors better than an online form. It goes along with that stewardship and just that additional layer of communication or that additional piece. Here are some tools I mentioned before: phone to action, action alerts, and they connect you with supporters. I really encourage you, if you're interested in adding or maybe changing your text approach or your text communication strategy, to explore some of these tools. Perhaps the systems you already use have an advocacy branch or a text to give integration with a different system. But these tools are pretty powerful. I mentioned before, you can send out a message to like 1,000 people at one time. You can customize it based off of the information that you have, whether it be their first name or something like that, to make it feel a little bit more personal. But there are really some fun features that these tools offer out of box. One-click politics is another advocacy tool. And then Hustle is more towards the peer-to-peer fundraising groups. And it provides sales and marketing, event attendees, fundraising, two-way communication. We know directly impacts gift size and sustainer programs. And modern times call for modern measures. And so I do feel like people are sometimes more receptive to text today than they have been in the past.
Thanks to both of you, Molly and Margaret. That was really great. We've now reached the official Q&A segment. So if you have any questions for Molly and Margaret about digital tech, doesn't necessarily have to be about things that we talked about today, but just in general, any questions that you may have, go ahead and pop them in. I know they'd love to field them. Oh, we've got one about SMS fundraising, Margaret. We'd love to do some of the SMS fundraising and outreach stuff you recommended. How do we go about collecting more numbers?
That is a great question. I think Molly feels very strongly too about the value of a mobile number these days. We used to put a lot of stress on email addresses, and we have some tried and true tactics on how we can generate new emails. We can even purchase them these days. So mobile numbers are a little bit different. I know I'm a little bit more hesitant to give my mobile number than I am my email address. So I can definitely relate to feeling a little bit gray in this area. There are a few ways that you can collect more numbers. One would be a mobile opt-in. So allowing users to text a keyword to a designated number that you have, and that will produce a short code and allow them to opt in through their mobile device itself. Another feature would be a web opt-in. So similar to the mobile opt-in, supporters can enter their phone number through the web and receive a text message confirmation. And then, you don't always throw away, no pun intended, the paper opt-in. So if you are at a walk event or something that's a little bit more physical or in person, and you don't necessarily have the technology in place to do a mobile opt-in or a web opt-in, you can take down phone numbers. The downside here is it requires some data entry. But ultimately, I think, my opinion is that people are willing to give you their mobile number or opt in to receiving text messages as a form of communication and to stay involved with your organization if they know that outlet is available. So part of it is just getting it out there and letting them know that it is more of a communication or an additional way to communicate and engage with us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, I think that is going to bring us to the end of today's session. Molly, Margaret, I just want to thank both of you again for hosting our first digital session of Office Hours. And I also want to thank all of you for taking the time out of your day to join us. If you have something that you'd like to talk to our team about more extensively, or if you've got an upcoming project that we can be of assistance on, email us at officehours@zurigroup.com and we will work to get you in touch with the Zuri Group team member that can best assist you. Next month, we're going to be sharing a recap of what we're covering at our first annual Zuri Group Summit. We'll be talking about everything from data primacy, the future of CRM, integration resources, API functions, engagement tools, visualization tools, analytics, and AI, and the importance of UI. So I will make sure that you get a link to register for that in our follow-up email, and we'll also provide a link to the recording. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.